Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something fascinating where AAA gaming meets blockchain. Big stuff.
It really is. And we're zooming in on one specific project that's, trying to build the actual rails for this intersection. GUNZ and its token, GUN.
Exactly. We've got this great report, a bunch of material on GUNZ looking at how it's setting itself up as a layer 1 blockchain, but like specifically for top tier AAA Web3 games.
Yeah, and our mission today is basically to unpack all that. Figure out what GUNZ actually is, what its different pieces are, how they work together, and maybe most importantly, why build a whole platform just for gaming?
Right. And there are some details buried in here that are genuinely quite surprising. I think it's worth digging into. So let's get started.
Okay, so at its heart, GUNZ is a layer 1, a blockchain built from the ground up with AAA Web3 gaming in mind. Thinking about the performance and features needed.
And the origin is key, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just let's build a blockchain and hope games come. It actually came from Gunzilla Games needing tech for their own big title, off the grid, OTG.
That's exactly right, OTG. And that origin really shapes their whole pitch, this built by game developers for game developers angle. The idea is, look, building blockchain tech is hard, it's complex.
Yeah, not something most game studios want to suddenly become experts in. They want to make games.
Precisely. So GUNZ is saying, hey, instead of you wrestling with all this custom blockchain stuff, use our tools. They're offering like white label products, SDKs, things like ready-made in-game wallets, P2P marketplaces, ways to mint items.
Okay, so they provide the plumbing, basically.
It's kind of, yeah. They want to dramatically lower that technical hurdle. And the bigger picture, their mission is to bridge this gap. You've got the huge Web2 AAA games, great gameplay, massive audiences, but often players don't really own their stuff, no real player economy.
Right.
Then you have Web3, which has the ownership tech, the NFT.
Makes sense. Better games with real ownership. So, okay, how does this ecosystem actually work? What are the main parts we need to understand from the material?
All right, we can break it down. First up, obviously, is the GUNZ blockchain itself. It's EVM compatible, which is a big plus for developers, makes it easier to work with.
Familiar territory.
Yeah. And it uses core tech from Avalanche, their Snowman consensus specifically, but, and this is important, it runs as its own independent chain. It's not just a subnet. It has its own validators securing it.
Okay, so independent but using proven tech.
Exactly. And another key detail, it's a permissioned setup for deploying smart contracts. So not just anyone can deploy anything. It seems like they want to curate the apps, probably for stability and performance, which you definitely want for gaming.
Yeah, you can't have the game lagging because someone deployed a dodgy contract. Okay, so that's the chain. And then there's the game that started it all, Off the Grid, OTG, free-to-play battle royale, already out in early access on consoles and PC.
Yep, developed by Gunzilla over 5 years. And OTG is really the showcase. It's where they're integrating the blockchain features directly into the player experience, things like that player-driven economy, actual ownership of your in-game gear using NFTs.
And the GUN token is central to that game's economy.
Absolutely. It's listed as the primary utility and payment token within OTG itself.
Okay, so you own stuff, use GUN in the game. How do you trade that stuff? That's the marketplace piece.
That's the GUNZ marketplace. It's their integrated platform for trading NFTs peer-to-peer. And importantly, it's accessible not just, on a website somewhere, but also inside the GUNZ wallet and even directly within games like OTG.
Oh, interesting. So you don't necessarily have to leave the game to trade.
That seems to be the goal, making it feel seamless. And you can trade NFTs from OTG. Another title mentioned is Technicore, and presumably any future games built on GUNZ. The key thing they emphasize is player-driven pricing. It's meant to be a dynamic market.
Right, not just a developer set shop. Okay, ownership trading. But how do items become NFTs in the first place? The GUNZ NFT minting engine sounds different.
It really does. It's quite a unique mechanism described in the material. Instead of the studio just like minting everything, it involves this special set of 10,000 validator NFTs.
Validator NFTs, how does that work?
So when players get certain items in the game called HEXs, they need to decode them, basically open them, to actually mint the item inside as an NFT onto the blockchain.
And the validator NFTs do the decoding.
Exactly. The player pays a commission in GUN tokens to one of these validator NFT holders to process that decoding and minting. And for a validator NFT to be active and earn these fees, its owner needs to keep a minimum balance of GUN tokens staked on the NFT itself.
So it creates this sort of decentralized layer of service providers within the game's ecosystem, all powered by GUN.
Yeah, it's a really really interesting model for integrating minting directly into the gameplay loop and incentivizing token holding.
Okay, fascinating. And to manage all this, the GUN tokens, the NFTs, you need a wallet.
Correct. Enter the GUNZ wallet. It's their official wallet. And a really notable feature is that it offers both custodial and non-custodial modes in the same app.
Oh, that's smart. So users can choose convenience or full control.
Exactly. The custodial option is mentioned as being powered by Fireblocks, which is a known institutional provider, so that adds a layer of security reassurance. But you can also just hold your own keys if you prefer. It gives flexibility.
Yeah, that seems crucial for onboarding gamers who might be new to crypto wallets.
Definitely. They highlight its user-friendly design, the integrated marketplace access, cross-platform support, and interestingly, the ability to potentially convert certain in-game achievements into tradable NFTs.
Turn your bragging rights into assets.
Kinda, yeah. A tangible link between gameplay and ownership.
Okay. And the last piece mentioned is the Explorer for transparency.
Yep, the blockchain scanner. Standard stuff for a blockchain, really. It lets anyone look up transactions, check on those validators, verify assets, see overall chain stats. It's accessible on the web and also integrated into the wallet.
All right, so we have the chain, the game, the market, the minting, the wallet, the Explorer. Quite a complete ecosystem they're building. Now let's talk about the fuel for it all, the GUN token. What are its specific jobs?
Okay, so the GUMN token wears several hats. As we said, it's the main payment currency within OTG.
Like for almost everything, buying stuff, fees.
Pretty much buying NFT items from other players on the marketplace, paying for cosmetic customizations, maybe buying expendable items, potentially a monthly subscription or battle pass, those HEX decoding fees we talked about, commissions when you resell items. Yeah, lots of in-game syncs for GUN.
So deeply tied into the game's economy. Makes sense. And being a blockchain, it's also for.
Yes, fees. Yep. Any transaction on the GUNZ chain itself, sending tokens, interacting with contracts, needs GUN to pay for the network processing. Standard layer 1 function.
Got it. And staking. You mentioned the validator NFTs, but are there other ways?
Yes. Two main types of staking described. First, those NFT validators stake GUN on their NFTs to be eligible to decode HEXs and earn those GUN commissions. Second, there are the more traditional proof-of-stake hardware validators. These are the folks running the actual nodes, validating transactions on the chain, and they earn GUN rewards for helping secure the network.
Okay, so staking for network security and staking for in-game services. And governance.
Yes, it's also mentioned as having a role in governance, allowing token holders to have some say in the future direction of the whole GUNZ ecosystem.
Okay, so it really is central. Let's look at the tokenomics details, provided this was as of late March 2025, right?
That's the timestamp on the data, yes. The total and maximum supply is fixed at 10 billion GUN.
10 billion. Okay, and the initial circulating supply when it lists?
Projected at 604.5 million GUN. That's just over 6.05% of the total supply hitting the market initially.
Right, and a big chunk of that initial float is from the Binance launch pool.
Correct. 400 million GUN, which is 4% of the total supply, allocated through launch pool. The source material also included a couple of notes, one about the split of that initial supply, and another clarifying that the GUN staked onto those validator NFTs is essentially locked or burned there. It can't be withdrawn from the NFT itself. Just details on how the supply is structured.
Okay, good to know. So that gives us a snapshot of the token itself. But what about actual traction? Does the material show this is actually working, especially with OTG?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. It ties back to that built by gamers thing maybe paying off. They've built the game, and the tech supports it. We see mentions of integrations, OpenSea for secondary trading, Fireblocks for the wallet custody, Zili for community stuff, so they are connecting outwards.
Right, not just a closed loop. And for players, the promise is that real ownership, the player economies, GUNZ just makes it happen in the background.
Exactly. And the testnet numbers they shared, again, as of March 2025, are, well, they're pretty striking. Over 14 million unique wallets created on the testnet.
14 million on a testnet.
Yeah. Processing over 440 million transactions. And at its peak, they were seeing over 900,000 daily active wallets interacting with the testnet features.
Wow, that's huge engagement for something technically still pre-launch, driven mostly by one game in early access. It suggests players were actually using the blockchain features.
It strongly suggests that yes, and the material explicitly connects this to OTG's early access success. It highlights how OTG shot up to become the #1 free-to-play game on the Epic Game Store shortly after its launch in October 2024. It even briefly surpassed Fortnite.
Whoa, okay. Surpassing Fortnite, even for a bit, on Epic. That's a serious indicator of mainstream player interest.
It really is. And it wasn't just a flash in the pan. OTG went on to win Game of the Year at the GM3 Awards in November 2024. The report also mentions positive feedback from mainstream gamers, big streamers. It seems like they managed to attract a traditional gaming audience into a game that had these Web3 elements integrated.
So it's not just theory. There's evidence of player adoption and mainstream appeal for the game itself, which drives use of the underlying GUNZ tech.
Okay, let's quickly look at the timeline. What's done, what's coming up according to the roadmap.
Okay, key milestones hit. Gunzilla Games founded back in 2020. Partnership with Avalanche announced April 2023. The GUNZ testnet and wallet went live October 2023. Then OTG Early Access launched that same month, hit #1 on Epic, got the Game of the Year award Nov 2024.
Right.
Then an interesting move, in March 2025, Gunzilla acquired Game Informer, the big gaming magazine, and that's also when they reported hitting those 14 million plus testnet wallets.
Buying a major media outlet, that's a bold strategic play. Okay, and looking forward from, say, early 2025.
The roadmap outlined Q1 2025 for the mainnet launch and the actual GUN token listing. Q2 2025 is focused on migrating everything, the wallet, marketplace, etc., over to the mainnet, plus releasing updated versions like Wallet 2.0.
Getting the live infrastructure fully up and running. Exactly. Then Q3 2025 mentions major updates for OTG, adding a narrative campaign, expanding the game world, but also, crucially, onboarding the first third-party projects onto the GUNZ platform.
So starting to become a platform for other developers too.
That's the plan. And then Q4 2025 is targeted for the full, complete release of the entire off-the-grid game world. Some material also lists ongoing work with partners like Fireblocks, OpenSea, Avalanche, and Zealy, showing continued business development.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, looking back at everything we've unpacked from the source material, what are the really key takeaways about GUNZ?
Well, I think the biggest thing is its clear positioning. It's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's a layer 1 blockchain laser-focused on AAA gaming. It aims to provide the specific infrastructure and tools, like the wallet and marketplace, that game developers need, hopefully making it easier for them to embrace Web3 features.
Right. And it's all fueled by the GUN token, which seems really woven into the fabric of the game economies built on top of it, starting with OTG.
Exactly. And maybe the most compelling part is that it's not just theoretical. Its flagship game, OTG, has already shown significant mainstream traction, attracting a large player base, winning awards.
And those players seem to be actively engaging with the underlying blockchain features, judging by those huge testnet numbers. It suggests the model works. Lead with a good game, integrate the tech smoothly.
Yeah, it seems to be less about shouting blockchain from the rooftops and more about using the tech to enable cool new things for players, like real ownership and vibrant economies within a game they already want to play.
So that really leads us to the final thought, something for you, the listener, to chew on. Given what we've seen here, this early success of off-the-grid blending mainstream appeal with integrated blockchain, does this kind of model where a great game comes first and the tech serves the player experience almost invisibly, does that feel like the inevitable future for how ownership and player economies will work in AAA games? And if it is, well, what does that mean for how you'll interact with games, virtual items, and digital value down the line?